Alrighty, that is recording. Cool. Hello and welcome. My name is Melissa,
And I'm Ashley.
and we are going to be talking about a couple of different topics here in our lovely little podcast. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about remote learning, which is what we do as teachers outside of school. So, having this whole digital classroom, trying to teach our students and have this, connected environment with them outside of the classroom because we can't go to school anymore. It's canceled. So we're going to talk about who we are, what our positions are, a little bit about us and our experiences just with remote learning and what we think can change or, where it can go, just in general.
So, welcome to Get Schooled. Okay, so we've kind of gone through the purpose of the podcast. We want to take a second to introduce ourselves and talk about how long we've taught here, what classes we're currently teaching. So, Miss P, what classes are you teaching? Who
So
are you? Why did you start teaching?
that's a long story. Currently, I am teaching public speaking and English 10. Last year, I taught English 9, English 11, and digital photography, which was really fun. I kind of always wanted to be a teacher since fourth grade. One of my favorite people on this planet, Miss Wood, I'm calling you out. We're friends on Facebook, so I can. She kind of taught me about, compassion and empathy, and it was always something that I felt like I was good at, and it made me feel like I was helping people. And then connecting that with my love of books just seemed like the right kind of fit. This is only my second year as a full-time teacher. I graduated college in 2016, so it's been a little while, and I've worked at the same school. So I feel like I've had the couple years to break in the experience, but it's still definitely a learning process for me because I haven't been doing this for very long. That's okay. How about you?
It definitely takes time to learn what you're doing too. I mean, it definitely takes time. I've been teaching for 5 years. Um, how did I know I wanted to be a teacher? That's always a hard question for me to answer because I feel like it's there's so many reasons that led to this decision. It almost seems like it was in my fate, which we will discuss on a later podcast, Fate and Destiny. So tune in, guys. But I graduated college in 2011 from Johnson State College, which is now Northern Vermont University. That's when you know you're in your 30s when they change your college's name. So Miss P, you'll have to keep me posted if they change your college's name. Um, but I've been teaching 5 years. I've always had a lot of admirable teachers. I remember even in first grade, my teacher, Mrs. Fox, and I shared the same birthday, and she did a headstand in my class, and I thought she was so cool. And I remember always finding solace at school. It might sound strange, but I always felt like school was a way to kind of escape my day to day life and kind of to escape my identity in my family. So it was kind of a way for me to determine who I wanted to be. And I really liked that about going to school every day. I think I still kind of miss that right now because I feel like part of my identity is a little bit, it has been kind of taken away and it shifted a bit. I'm still doing what I want to do every day, but you know what I mean? So remote learning, it definitely has its learning curve here. But I became a teacher because I feel like ultimately around my junior year, sophomore year, maybe of high school, I started to notice that I was kind of predicting what my English teachers were going to say. Like the quotes that they were going to pick out, I would always think, oh, that's the one I marked, to talk about in class. And then I started to notice that pattern and that I was good at English and I loved it and I wanted to carry on with it. So that's I guess it's kind of a long story too.
Yeah.
So it's
We can have
fair,
a
right?
whole other episode about that because it's different factors. Like
That's so true.
I was never really like a what's the right word? Outgoing type of person. Like I was super shy and bookish and I kept to myself. And then, once I hit college, I was like, I like books. I like theater. That's the only place that I can like really be myself is when I'm being somebody else. But like teaching is a little theatrical, right? You did theater too, right?
Um, so actually I was gonna ask you, when you did theater, what did you do with theater?
We did a lot, like the specific plays.
Well, what was your role when you were in these plays too?
For the most part, I was ensemble, just because I was still learning how to connect with the audience and have my voice and not be afraid to speak out or sing out and put myself out there. But I was Elizabeth Proctor, so
That's
little lead
cool.
role.
Pretty cool, guys. Crucible reference right there if you didn't know. Just saying. Cool. Did you have a nice like Puritan costume for that play?
I did. It was like it looked like a maid costume, but it was really cool, and I had a little bonnet. It was
This
really
is
great.
my seltzer, by the way. Really good seltzer. Pomegranate cherry. Just pointing it out.
Yes,
Just so we know what it is.
I miss theater, but I think that helped me become a teacher a lot more. Just how it helped me to embrace putting myself out there and trying to, it maybe look like a fool, but if it helps get the point across, if it helps somebody learn and memorize something, if it makes it more memorable, it's worth it. And not being afraid to put yourself out there was something that I didn't even think about until theater. So it helped a
I
lot.
did I was too afraid to really do theater. So I did theater my freshman year, sophomore year, got enough hours in to become an official thespian. So technically I am part of the Thespian Society. Um, However, I had terrible stage fright. I would freeze up, I would get shaky, my palms would get sweaty. Honestly, kind of broke out into a cool sweat every time I had to go on stage. I was literally shaking. I could feel myself shaking. I hated being on stage. When I had to do the ninth grade award ceremony and speak out in front of all the ninth graders at MB, I felt the same way. I hope my voice was steady, but I still get stage fright really bad. So I decided to become part of the tech side of things. So I did the painting and wore all the black clothes, which still got that vibe going today. Um, but I did all that, and then I think when it came to performing, my favorite thing was singing with on like smaller ensembles. Like I was in chamber singers. I did a barbershop group with my aunt. She kind of made me do it, but it was a good experience though. I really don't regret it, and I love singing with people. I love singing in general. I kind of miss that from high school. If there's one thing I miss, so we might have bantered on a bit about drama a little bit in our. Wait, did you ever play an instrument?
I did.
What
Um,
did you play?
in middle school, for a hot minute, I played the clarinet, and I had independent piano lessons for like 4 or 5 years. And then I've also been teaching myself guitar since I turned 16, and that was my sweet 16 birthday present, was a guitar.
That's so cool.
Yeah, music has always been like a huge factor, but I think it's important to learn how to play an instrument. I think that helps left brain, right brain to combine a little bit.
Yeah, I like knowing how to read music. I like knowing how to count music. I guess I'm kind of bad at it, but I'm okay. I can get by.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm much better at singing than I am at playing an instrument, though. I played clarinet because it was like in my household, it was my mom's clarinet when she was in high school, and so I inherited it. But then my sisters all got to choose their instruments. I was kind of forced, I feel, to play the clarinet. So I feel like I was always a little resentful of the assignment I was given. But that's me. That's on me. I can totally admit that. But I love singing. I don't really love playing an instrument. I do love music though in general. So I think it's super cool that you play the piano and guitar. That's awesome.
Not good at either, but it's the passion is there and the drive is there.
The piano is actually my favorite instrument, so that's pretty cool. Piano and French horn. Talk about interesting, but we should talk a little bit here about remote learning. What are
Yeah.
you thinking so far?
Huh?
Where are we going to start with this? Remote learning. It's quite the topic for our podcast today.
Yeah.
Don't you agree? It's huge,
Um,
really.
so let's talk about what our school is doing so far, not using too many specifics just because everything's been in flux for a couple of weeks here. And then what we prepared as teachers that we can go into, how we feel about it, because how we feel about what we're doing might be different from another teacher. If they're doing remote learning something, different than what we do, they might have different opinions and feelings towards it.
And
So
I'm kind of open to hearing that too, because I think it's so cool to get other people's perspectives. That's something that's really cool about teaching. I think that we're always very vocal. We share ideas a lot. And I think that that's what makes us better. If we don't have those conversations, sometimes even disagreements about things, then we never become better.
yeah,
So I think that's really important. Just sorry to interrupt, but you were on a roll.
good. I think having that connection, especially through social media with other teachers, just
Mhm.
knowing what they're doing and how comfortable they are, it gives you other ideas, but it also gives you confidence knowing that you're not in this alone and other people are struggling with it. And it's not a bad thing to, not have the most confidence in the world with what we're doing right now.
Yeah, I think everybody's feeling a little bit in limbo. And while we have had excellent directives from administration, from our leadership team, I
Yeah.
think that we're still learning it, and that's okay. We're still new to it. That's okay. Yeah.
So, what we have done so far, I think the most important thing was right off the bat when school started closing, we were all together in an assembly, just faculty with our administrators, and we had this huge meeting and we really went over about everything that we knew at that point, and it was very open and honest. And I think having that type of connection and that type of support with other teachers, faculty, administrators, I think that was really important to start off with. Um, and just knowing that we are High School Musical all in this together was really important, just to get that same feeling and emotional, I don't know how to word this, just that
No,
emotional.
the tension was almost, for all that there is still tension in the room. I mean, we had a meeting, and that meeting, I mean, it was one of the, I have to say, one of the shorter meetings we've had, which is kind of nice because realistically, when you decide to do something new in education, it's going to take you an insurmountable amount of time to figure out the what, why, how, to figure, like, it takes forever for us to develop our curriculum to begin with. So to take our curriculum and then to say, okay, you're going to chop it in half, you're going to chop it in half again, we're being asked to do stuff that we're trying to like kind of jump the hurdles as they come. And that's probably a terrible metaphor, but it's kind of what we're all doing. We're all jumping those hurdles at the same time, trying to make sure that we can get over them together.
Yeah.
But we are stronger together. We definitely do support each other. I've heard from so many of my colleagues this week, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate the communication. So that's excellent. I know, I love them. So anyway, the support has been amazing. The communication I think has been really great, which is something that we did want to discuss here too, like communication with students and families. How has that been going for you?
I think going off of like how we actually prepped for it, one of the things that we did was a lot of teachers were creating this calendar for the days that we knew we were going to be out. So the first days when we were preparing everything, we knew that we were going to be out until tomorrow, April 3rd, right? So we had these
Wow.
like 2.5 weeks that we had to plan for. And I know I shared it with my students and all of their parents just through a straight email. I attached it as a file. I explained, how I was going to be working with video conferencing, and I tried to make that as transparent as possible. Just saying like what we're doing on each day and how that's going to work, and that I'm always going to be here to talk. I have communication on my side at all times. So I think that was important to establish right off the bat, just saying like, I'm not going to let you drown. I am here with floaty devices. Let's get through this together, but go at your own pace. as far as getting that communication back from parents and students, that's been really rough. I know a lot of kids are working, and I don't even want to say kids, students, young adults. They have jobs, they have responsibilities. Through this entire crisis, they're trying to figure out how to take on this responsibility. But I think it's important to know that we are here for everybody, and we feel just as much, not necessarily stress, but maybe a little sadness when we don't hear from our students, and concern. I don't care as much about getting grades in on time. Of course, I'm grading. Of course, I'm doing the work. I'm doing my part here. But if I don't hear from a student, I freak out. I'm really worried about some of my kids, and having that lack of communication can be really stressful. It's just being honest here about, you know, hearing
No,
back from
I
kids.
want to echo what you're saying because I feel the same way, especially when you don't hear from certain kids and you start to worry about them, especially if you have a relationship with them, you know them pretty well, and honestly just kind of miss everybody in general. So it's kind of like we miss our environment, we miss our classrooms, we miss seeing everybody the way it normally works for us. But of course, we're, kind of acclimating ourselves to this new environment, which humans, thank God, are very good at doing. So I would say that I miss seeing people. I miss seeing my students more than anything. But the communication, I think, on my end has been pretty solid, especially with my sophomores and my CP English 11 class. My journalism students could do a better job about posting their assignments in a timely manner. However, because we kind of do weekly slash, like, it's almost like 2 weeks sometimes for a piece that we're writing, sometimes in journalism, depending on what's going on. And it has been this week because it's been a little bit crazy. So I guess overall, I don't know if I actually said what classes I teach. I teach English 10, CP English 11 right now, and I teach journalism. So I think that that's been something I've been struggling with remote learning, is making sure that I'm updating my lesson plans in the shared Google Drive that we have with everybody, updating my plans every day on Google Classroom. And that's all I've used so far. I haven't done any video conferencing yet because, one, I'm nervous about it. Two, I want to start off easy. I want to take it bit by bit, day by day. And that actually kind of leads us into our next topic, I think, what we've been assigning in our classrooms. So if it's cool if I just like jump into that, is that cool? I don't want to like get ahead of ourselves. So so with that in mind, with this whole idea of we don't really know what we're dealing with, we don't know. There's so much uncertainty right now, so many unanswered questions, that we're kind of just trying to get some content to our kids and like try to step by step, day by day, get some information to them that is part of our curriculum.
Yeah.
So what I've been doing in journalism, we just did an op-ed piece. Most of my kids have communicated with me. I think there's only one kid in that class I haven't heard from, which it's a tech thing. So like that person doesn't have access to some tech. So that's the thing. And then CP English 11, we're just reading Catcher in the Rye. We're reading about 3 chapters a week. I have kids filling out a reading log, and I'm responding to them in depth. I'm so inspired by what they've said so far, too. They're really getting into it, and we just read one of the more prominent chapters in the text, so I'm super excited about what they're saying and how they're responding to the text, and I love teaching Catcher in the Rye, so I just love it. And then in English, I'm doing Romeo and Juliet, just like you, and that has been interesting because I haven't been what I've been doing with that is basically I posted all of the reading questions entirely for like every single act and scene that we have for Romeo and Juliet. Mm-hmm. And they have to respond to reading questions and read it every day. And I know it's a little bit boring, I know, but it's kind of like, okay, I need to be able to assess you and understand what you're doing. But I mean, and I'm eventually going to do some video conferencing with all of my classes once I feel more comfortable with it. I honestly have to I feel like I'm just getting to that point where I feel okay with it. So I feel like that's where I'm at right now with my classes so far. What about you?
I think I tried to dive into everything and use all of these different um, technological resources that we were given, which was wonderful that we were given so many options and ideas from our different departments. I tried to dive into it too hardcore, I guess. I've been doing open office hours, so video conferencing. One day it might be from 1 to 3, which is when I would have my block 4 kids. And I'll just say, it's not mandatory. They can come, stop by, say hi. I will talk to them about my little cat who's sleeping right here. It doesn't have to be about the topic, but if they have questions about Romeo and Juliet, that's when I can answer them. Kind of just explain, why Romeo's so upset in the beginning and have that kind of verbal connection with it. But it's the students that aren't joining that, maybe don't feel comfortable showing their face or asking it verbally or using the technology. They're missing out, and I'm worried about that, obviously, but it's also whether or not I'm really comfortable with recording myself and posting videos where I'm just talking about it. I don't have that feedback that I would have in person. Knowing if this is a question that students want answered, knowing if I'm going too in depth and I'm confusing them even more, because learning Shakespeare on your own, really hard
Oh,
for some kids.
yeah. It can be done, but it's really challenge. It can be a challenge for sure. Shakespeare
So
can be tricky.
I gave them the audiobook link. I gave them PDFs of the text, different assignments to talk about, the language. Before we left school, before we were remote learning, we had learned iambic pentameter. We learned a Shakespeare background and bio.
Nice.
And we had about 2 weeks, I would say, where we were talking about it. So they were more comfortable with the plot. And I know some other teachers, I think you didn't really have that. So
No.
diving into Shakespeare with remote learning, that's a bit tough.
Oh my God. Yeah. There are some kids that I've assigned like a kind of recovery project because they've fallen really far behind.
Yeah.
And I worry about them. So there is a recovery option. But it's a lot of research, and it is quite a bit of research, and it's a slideshow presentation sort of thing on majigger. So
Yeah.
I came up with this project as kind of a backup thing for people that do fall behind. And that's something that I think that I've done a pretty good job at. I always feel like I have some backup plans. So if a kid ever emails me and says, I'm really stressed out, I have a lot going on right now, blah, 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 like my family members are sick or what have you, what I would say is, oh, don't worry about it because I have this for you. And it's going to ease that stress. And the number one thing I don't want my students doing is stressing out right now. The world is stressful enough. So I have really, I've been really repetitive with myself when I say to them in emails, please tell me if you're feeling stressed. And I have had some kids reach out and say, I'm stressed.
Yeah.
Or kids are struggling with certain classes or assignments. I did an assignment last Friday where I asked my students to post a picture of where they work from home. So I had a lot of kids posting all kinds of pictures where they work from home. And then I asked them to fill out some questions or respond to some questions. And one of the questions was, do you feel the work being assigned to you is valuable right now? And the majority of my students, I mean, I know that they're responding to me directly, so I have to understand that it's with a grain of salt that I take this information, but they have said that they felt that they've been getting busy work and busy assignments in some classes. And I just feel that should not be happening. I don't know if they feel that way about this class, but most of them have indicated that they don't feel that way about their humanities classes to me. So that makes me feel pretty good. Like we as a team are moving in the right direction. So it makes me feel pretty good. What else did we want to talk about today?
I did want to mention that it's been really difficult for public speaking.
Mm,
'Cause there's essentially no way to do it without having this technology. And there are definitely some students that, they're older, they're seniors, they're juniors, they have jobs, they work at grocery stores because that's the perfect job for them. But unfortunately, they're working full-time hours now. And, I can have them record themselves, but that's about it. It's meeting as a whole class and practicing, our vocal warm-ups. I have no guarantee that they're doing that. But I did want to shout out Pear Deck. Have you used Pear Deck before?
I have.
Yeah,
I
it's
have.
so much fun. I gave them a presentation on color psychology. We're using that for our visual aid unit for public speaking because we have visual aids when we speak, and it would help just to go over that. And this is a presentation that I would have given in class. So, the questions that I would ask them as a class, I typed up on Pear Deck, and I'm using the same slideshow. I just expanded it a little bit. So the technology is certainly helping as far as communication and getting that feedback from students about the actual work. I think a lot of them do think that it's just busy work, but more often than not, what we think of as busy work is stuff that they can do independently and might have like minimal need to communicate with us during that
Right, yeah.
I think for STEM classes, it's probably very different. They might have a math worksheet that they need to talk through and learn how to do that actual assignment and how to do that, use that formula or whatever it is. So that's going to be really different for different topics. But as far as English goes, yeah, read the work, answer the reading questions, watch the video that corresponds with it. And maybe it's a video that I made. Who knows? And if you have questions, that's when you talk to me. But I don't want students to feel like we're, giving them all of this stuff because we have to. Part of what we were talked about, words, Miss P. Part of what we had discussed was trying to pace this out. Right, we had talked about with our other teachers in our little faculty meetings, not worrying about getting to the end of the semester as we had originally planned. So one thing that we have to cut is maybe a research paper unit, because that's something that you really have to be more hands-on with.
Yeah, I think that will be forthcoming a bit. Like we'll have to kind of spitball off each other a bit to see where we're going specifically. But it is possible that some things will be moved from English 10 to English 11 for next year, possibly. I mean,
Sure.
things are very much, that scene in E.T. where he throws all the things up in the air and they just float? That's how I feel it is right now. Like, it's like he threw all those things up in the air and it's just floating. And we're kind of waiting to see where things fall, if that makes any sense. So, what a weird analogy, but
I was just
hey.
thinking about like Iron Man, Tony Stark, has like in early Iron Man, he has his whole little setup in the basement there, and he just pulls up a 3D map and he's like, cut that out, okay, move that over here. That's what I feel like I've been doing with our entire, curriculum year.
It's a lot of like cut, paste, revise,
Differentiate
down a bit. It's a lot of work on our end. So guys, please know that on top of grading assignments almost daily right now, okay, just actually to give you an idea, things are probably going to be slowing down a bit too. So we're probably going to be slowing things down. I personally last week, kind of after the messages we were getting, I kind of committed to 3 days of content per week, knowing that 2 days a week are going to be like maybe one fun day activity. Personally, kind of optional if you do it or not. I mean, if you do it, great. If you don't, I'm not going to be that upset if you have someone sick in your family, if you're taking another shift at the grocery store, whatever it is that you work. So there's a lot going on right now, and we understand that our students have lives beyond their English class or their math class or MB altogether. So we just really, on a human level, want to be able to be there to support our students more than anything, I think, and that's our main goal. Overall, what do you think about remote learning? What are your overall opinions? I know it's kind of a beast of a question.
There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of factors. Primarily, I didn't like it at the beginning, just because I love that like that 4-second sidebar that I have with a student that makes me connect with them for that whole block. You miss saying hi to certain students in the hallway. There's that lack of just like eye contact. You know, I can look at a student, and if I know they're struggling, I can be like, you okay? Just with my eyes if we're in class, but I can't check on them every single second when they're at home, you know. I'm here if they have questions, they contact me, I contact them. But if I don't hear back from them, I'm just going to assume that everything's okay. And that's not necessarily how it should be. In order to, you know, use the most, I don't know how to word this, use this remote learning as effectively as we can, I think has been the most difficult thing to try and wrap our heads around. I didn't like it at the start because I miss my kids. Right now, I'm starting to get into the swing of it. And it sucks to say that because it's been 2.5 weeks. I've been trying to keep on top of grades and contact with email and everything. But switching over our curriculum within 2 days to try and plan for 2.5 weeks was really tough.
You mean that day we had where it was just the teacher day and we wrote 36 lesson plans in a day, basically?
Depending on how many courses each teacher teaches, I only have 2. So I have public speaking and English 10. I just make lessons for those courses and adapt them so that kids can do it on their own, essentially. Or I can have those materials prepped for them within those 2 days that we had at school, one of them being optional if you finished everything on the first day, which I basically did. But it's still stressful thinking about, like, I have group projects that I would love to do. I have little performances and skits that I like to do in front of my kids that I can't do with remote learning.
I totally get that.
Are trying, and I'm sure another friend, faculty member of ours, gave me a really good idea where you have like little groups. I actually think I talked to you about this too, where I like group the students and I'm like, hey, you need to meet with these students on a Zoom meeting. You have your own time outside of class. Figure it out. That seems very college to me. That's a very collegiate thing to do where, you know, you have this assignment and you have to sort out when you can meet with these people, get it done.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking that sounds like something I would give to my CP kids right now.
Yeah.
I don't think I will anytime soon because I personally still need maybe another week or so to feel more comfortable with this video stuff.
Yeah.
I'm super old school. I'm like AOL Instant Messenger was my jam back in the day, so I'm kind of like embracing that, and I feel like everything I've done is text based, and that's what I've enjoyed about it. But there's a lot to love and a lot to hate about it, I think. A lot, not hate is a very strong word, though. I would say adjust to.
Yeah. I think the students can probably tell when we're not comfortable. And that's something that, as a second year teacher, I have had to work on. You know, having that confidence in front of my students and having that material planned for the day when I go into school, I feel confident and I know what I'm going to talk about, and they can see that and they can feel that. But when it's like, hey, do this assignment, goodbye, it's lacking that personality to it. So that's one thing that I really have a problem with remote learning, is you don't get that same type of connection. I could have mandatory Zoom meetings during that school block time, and I could, you know, ask the students to be there, and I could mute them.
You should ask your students what they think about it. Comment below. Comment below. What do you think of that mandatory Zoom meetings?
It feels like that, you know, different type of structure, that different type of one-to-one connection is missing. I will say, however, the past couple of video conferences, there are a couple kids that keep showing up, which is wonderful. And we just talk about whatever. You know, I talked about floppy disks and Zac Efron today. And we had that little bit of a connection that made them laugh, made me laugh, made one of their parents laugh in the background. And I miss that. but it's a learning curve for sure. Getting more comfortable with everything.
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to remote learning, at first I kind of had mixed feelings about it. Like I liked certain things about it. I like that there's no distractions. I like that we're kind of moving at our own paces. I like that everybody's moving at their own pace. What I don't like is for some people that pace is to do nothing. And I think that that's where I'm not only, I guess and I'm not trying to be harsh when I say this, but I'm just saying I know that there are some kids that maybe you've done some work for your math class, maybe you're just letting English take the back burner for now because maybe you're really good at it, maybe you struggle with it. I don't, but I mean, regardless, at this point, if you haven't reached out to your teachers and you have a class that you're participating in and you've heard from your teachers at this point, and you should reach out. You should take that upon yourself responsibility wise. Like, there's not a lot of people in this world that are going to keep their jobs if they don't respond to their bosses right now. I mean, look at the world we're living in. 6.6 million people in America yesterday applied for unemployment benefits. Our country is probably going to hit, I mean, if we don't go into a recession, which I believe we will, I mean, we'll go into a depression and whatever happens, happens. But I mean, we've been through it before, we'll go through it again. I feel really very much like there's bigger things going on in the world than, not to say that school isn't important, but there are bigger things in the world than Romeo and Juliet, than Catcher in the Rye. And really, we care so much about our students. We really care about them as people before we care about them as our students. I feel very strongly about that. I mean, I'm sure, I know you do too. I mean, we good friends, we know.
And I do want to mirror that. When I was in high school, I didn't, it sounds weird to say, but I had kind of like separated the idea of my teachers being people outside of class, and I think that's very different now, knowing that there are teachers on TikTok and there are teachers, outside of the classroom. Like, I know that this person likes to snowboard, and you have a different connection with your students now than what I know I felt in high school. I'm sure it's different for everybody, but
especially right now too. I mean, our kids are seeing our home offices, this is my like home office, my craft room right now. I mean, during our meeting tonight, we just had a meeting a little while ago. We should preface this, but like we just had a meeting a little while ago with our whole entire department, and it was a Google Meet meeting. And I saw, Mr. Nielsen's dog. Last week I saw Miss Lescrenier's bunny. I feel like I heard Mrs. Casavan's dog barking at one point, which don't want to mess with that doggy. But I mean, my dog sat in my lap for a solid minute there. I mean, we had pet time today. It was bonding. It was very nice, but I miss everybody. I think that's the bottom line is I miss people. I'm social. I'm a super social person, but I'm actually kind of an introvert. So I feel like school is my time to be social. And I like to be home and have my work life and my home life and my social and home life be kind of not separate necessarily, but just like work at work. When you're home, you get to relax. And that's totally different for me now. So that's been an adjustment. And it's been is your boyfriend working from home now, or is he working now?
He still has to go to work. I can't talk too much about it because it's kind of secret. But he does go to work because he's essential, and it's really rough because he has like the nighttime schedule. So I am like home alone a lot, and I need to talk to somebody. You need to get this out. It's just hard.
It's lonely. It can be so lonely too. I know that when I first moved to New Hampshire, I was so sad because I'm a very social person. Like I came from a place where people used to just walk into my house, my parents' house, my house in college. We had like an open door policy. It was very open. And to go from that to, oh, I live in a state, I don't know anybody, it was so sad. So I had to adjust to New Hampshire, but I love New Hampshire now. I love the Shire. It's so cool that we have the mountains to the north, the the ocean to the south, but the lakes in the middle. We have everything. I mean, what don't we have in New Hampshire? Vermont? What? I'm just kidding. I shouldn't say that because, like, what if my family's listening? They're not. NSA, what? Okay, so where was I going? Where are we going next with this? So I have mixed feelings about remote learning. You were kind of like, no, I don't like it. You're such a tech guru, though. I'm. So what are your overall kind of? What are you thinking about this overall experience? Like, what would you ultimately like to get out of it? Do you think there's anything missing right now?
I feel like the hard part is not everybody is like the same type of organized that I am. So when I try and plan a day or I try and plan a schedule, it might not fit into my student's schedule. And I think knowing when I can expect things from certain students is something that I need to figure out, whether it's on an Excel spreadsheet and knowing like, hey, I might not get John's work until 7 every night, but that doesn't mean that it's late because he works, 9 to 5. I would like to see this develop into a more connective type of curriculum, I suppose, where maybe it is mandatory to have those Google Meets or these Zoom meetings, where it's just like we're going to class. If I had the money, this would all be whiteboard and I would, teach like I would normally teach. I've projected things on my TV and, flipped this around so that you can see that behind me. But trying to establish that at-home classroom feel is something that I really think is missing from remote learning for us right now anyway, or at least from me. I would like to see this become more of a steadfast scheduled thing. I know there's a lot of teachers on social media, teachers that I've seen on TikTok or Facebook, or, I'm in a group with them, and there are, middle school teachers that post a video at 9:30 every morning for an hour and a half, and that's their lesson for all of their classes. So then, like, they're all watching this lesson, which works for some people, but it doesn't really work for me yet. So trying to figure out how to keep this going and keep that connection, I need to figure that out. That's what's missing.
Yeah, I feel like the out of all of my students altogether, I think there's only 2 that I have not heard from at all. And if I haven't heard from a kid in a few days, I'm kind of assuming they're working a bunch. And actually, here's something. So this morning I was thinking to myself, like, okay, who haven't I heard from in a while? And I was thinking, oh, this person comes to mind. Okay, this student I was thinking of. Wouldn't you know, I check my email. Not only do I have an email from this kid saying, like, oh, sorry, I've been working a bunch, like, blah, blah, blah. I haven't really had time to do my work. I haven't met my teachers in the Zoom meetings because I've been working literally nonstop. And I happen to know this student very well. I've had him in every single year of English, and I have him in an elective. So I'm just like, I know this kid. I know he's good. I know he's going to do his work. Guess what? He's all caught up now.
Beautiful.
Isn't it insane? Literally 24 hours. Yeah. And I was like, that's a success story. Granted, this is a kid that's pretty motivated as an independent learner. And I think that that's where we have to say, you know what, I'm sorry, but education is a privilege. And I hate to say this to our kids, but there are countries where education isn't a privilege, that many kids don't get to attend school for free. That is not necessarily against the law for kids to not go to school. Education is a privilege. It is a right that you're granted in this country. Take us up on it. Yeah. Like it's really, I've heard kids say that they think their teachers should be more entertaining. And while I do think we need to explain, like, why is this important? I think the why of what we teach is important. I don't think we're supposed to tap dance for you. So I do like to do that a little bit. Like, I do like to be a little bit silly sometimes. I think we all do, but I'm not a performer. I'm a teacher. And so I think that, unfortunately, our content, you know, whether it's math, whether it's science, whatever discipline you're teaching, not everybody's gonna love. Like I'm not a big fan of math. I don't read math textbooks. I don't do math for fun. I know you're really good at math, but math has always made me feel really stupid. I was actually doing a math problem just yesterday and I felt like a juvenile about it because my husband was like, "No, you're doing it wrong, blah 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 blah." And I was like, "What the heck? I thought I was in the right." So, you know, he corrected my math, which thanks, Adam. Thanks, my boo. Anyway, that's what I call my husband. I call him my boo. I'm embarrassed now. But so anyway, what was I talking about? Math. I wish I was good at math. I have loved certain math classes I've taken in the past, but it's not like my forte. Do I understand what it's like to struggle at something? Heck yes. If you struggle at English, I get that. Like, it's cool. Like, I don't take it personally. Please just tell me, though, so I can help. Like, I can't do anything if you don't tell me. I'm not psychic. I wish. Wouldn't that be so cool?
You had mentioned this earlier, and I just wanted to kind of reiterate this. If to any student who's listening, anybody, if you're not in my class, I don't care. Talk to your teachers about this. If you're struggling and it's remote learning time, all I want to hear from you is an email that says, "Hey, I'm okay." That's all I want. Say, "I'm working on it. I'm four assignments behind, but I'm working on it." And tell me that you work every day during the day. Tell me that you're taking care of your family and, school's not a priority right now, but let me know that you're out there. And
yeah, and also we can accommodate those students. It's not like, so if you're starting, you know, if I've gone through half of Catcher in the Rye, this hasn't happened in this class. I'm just using this as an example. I happen to have heard from every single student in this one class, but if we're halfway through the novel and you're thinking you might not get a chance to read it at all, if you don't reach out, we can't help you.
Yeah.
We can't come up with an alternative assignment. So
because
we're in the dark. We're just as in the dark. If you don't reach out, we don't know.
We went to college to figure out how to differentiate and how to specialize our learning towards different types of learners. And the way that people learn differently, remote learning isn't going to work for some kids. So if you let us know that you're struggling, maybe I can come up with a different assignment for you. Maybe I'll forgive a certain assignment if, you would really be better off doing something tactile for that. If instead of reading the play, if it helps that you watch a performance and then you have a different assignment connected with it, you got to let me know. Because otherwise, we're all just treading water here. We're all just trying to survive through this. And if you don't email your teachers, don't send that communication, you're going to hear from us. You're going to hear from admin. You're going to hear from guidance. You're going to hear from somebody. We would want to hear from you first before we have to send those emails out to your parents or to your guardians or guidance and say, "Hey, ¿qué pasa? What's going on with you?" Just
I feel like I always threaten my students with emails home, like, "Oh, don't make me do that. I don't want to email your parents."
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel right now. I don't want to email your parents, but I'm having to. And I feel like I'm tattletelling on my kids, and they're almost adults, and that's kind of lame. So, like, just do your work or email us if you're struggling, because pretty simple. Just shoot us an email, say, like, "Yo, struggling here.
Yeah.
What can I do?"
If you have priorities, if you're, busy doing something else, I understand. I know.
Oh, yeah.
And
also, sometimes there are more important things. So you might be surprised by our responses. You might think we're going to yell at you or lecture you. Probably not.
Yeah.
This is a very strange time. So just, understand that we're kind of working all in this blind spot where we don't know where things are going to be falling down here.
Being either forgiven or, we're going a little bit easier with some things. So please communicate. Just talk to me.
Do you think overall remote learning should continue? Do you think it's a viable form of education overall, or?
I I think for some students, it definitely works. Some kids like having that, place at home where they can find peace and they can do this independently, and that works for them. But there are definitely some students that have, no quiet place. They don't have peace. They have responsibilities until 9 p.m. Whereas if they had that safe place, that school zone where they could, have that structure, I feel like, there's definitely a benefit to that for some students. I think corona wise, it should continue. And until we have more knowledge on all of this, until we have an idea about when it's going to resolve or when there's a vaccine or something.
Exactly.
But I think modifications to it are going to continue at least until the end of the school year. Trying to think about how to reach all of our kids effectively, going to be an ongoing struggle.
I think it's really nice to have these kind of classes as an option for kids that struggle with severe anxiety, which I struggled with growing up. And my students, I doubt they believe me when I say that I was the kid that sat in the back of the classroom that never talked to anybody in high school. I was always like very nervous that people would just judge everything about me, that they were always judging me no matter what. And now I know that's all a bunch of malarkey, the no malarkey tour. So it's a bunch of it's not true. I mean, nobody's looking at you. Nobody really cares, if we're being honest. And so, they're not looking at your outfit and thinking, oh, what a, they're most people don't care.
And even if they are, even if they don't care, then their priorities are out of whack. So
also, like, you're wearing clothes. Who cares? Like, really, like, who cares? You're doing what you're socially supposed to do in our current society. Like,
and
I mean, you're doing it. Good job.
you're in class, and I love you, and that's all that matters.
Exactly. Like, just do you, Overall, okay, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about what we've been doing for fun. This is the fun part. Okay, hobbies, and what else? What's she doing at home? What you doing?
Like our daily schedules with remote learning, obviously we have to have something going on. We're on our computers, we have this going on. But if I have an open video chat, that doesn't mean that I'm literally here the entire time. I have sounds and alerts that go off, and I will come back and I will check it and I will respond. That was a loud clap, sorry.
You're fine.
But like literally in the meantime, got cinnamon roll dough that's rising right now.
Nice.
We got
That's awesome.
a closet that I just finished reorganizing. Trying to learn how to play the guitar again.
Awesome.
To figure out how to do nail art. Really hard, I figured out. Not my forte. It's okay.
That's okay. You gotta try new things though, right?
Yeah.
Trying new things is fun. I have been actually I can show you what I did. I don't know if the lighting is that great, but so I have all these papers and stuff in my office, and I decided to. So this was my MacBook. I did some decoupage.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's I don't know if you can tell this Alice in Wonderland reference here.
It's a bunny.
So I did like one of these. This is actually my old MacBook. My MacBook that Adam got me for Christmas this year came in this. And so I just decoupaged like the whole thing. And then I've been keeping papers in here, and it's honestly, it looks so neat in my office right now, but it's all because I have like different places to put papers. And then I did this one too. I'll show you my other one. It is actually, I kind of like this one better because it's cuter. This is like it's like a circus kind of thing.
I like it.
It kind of looks better in person, but it's okay. Like, I've been just doing this. I've just been trying new things, like what can you do with your time, right? Like, we do what we can. So I've been trying to do that. I have been reading up on what my students have been saying in my CP English 11 class about Catcher in the Rye. And I'm really happy about the responses I'm getting and the fact that they seem to be liking it a little bit more than The Great Gatsby, but some kids don't agree. And I think that that's actually really cool that not everybody is just like compliant and agreeing with each other all the time. I think that's really nice to have people that just kind of like independently have their own thoughts. And ugh, I hate to say, that almost sounds like a criticism, like, oh, you're having an independent thought. But
Yeah.
I think it's really cool to just say, oh, this is kind of like uniquely my own, thought. And then just sharing that with people can change the way that they're thinking about it. So I think that those discussions are so important. I'm really looking forward to getting more comfortable with Zoom. And maybe next time we do this, I'll Zoom you so I can get
Yeah.
the hang of
You
it
can
or something, because I feel like I need to practice this a little bit more. And I miss my students so much. Like there have been times where I've been sitting here grading and I've been reading their responses and I just like will get misty and I'll be like, Pinker, don't cry, don't cry. But like I'll start thinking about my kids, or they'll send me an email. Like I had a kid send me a little message today, and he said, "Miss Pinker, I miss you," and I was like, "Don't cry, don't cry." So I was just, I'm getting kind of emotional because I think I'm like a really social person. I think that's where this is really coming from. That I just miss that daily check-in. I mean, daily social interaction altogether. I mean, I love my husband to death, but being in the same house with just him, he's working from home, by the way. So he's working downstairs in our gym. And I think that should be maybe something we do next podcast is like home tour, possibly.
maybe.
Watch that. My house is weird, but like I'm okay with that. But because it's not finished, but that's okay. We have some work to do there. Um, but my husband's been working at home, so I'm trying to make sure that he doesn't distract me too much. He did a little bit today.
Yeah.
Um, besides crafts, I've been watching TV and I have been playing The Sims 4 like crazy. Have you been playing any video games?
I bought Luigi's Mansion 3 for the Switch.
I heard that was really good.
It's so much fun. Because I have my GameCube Holler. I love it.
Nice.
So I played Luigi's Mansion on the GameCube and I beat it. It's a really good way to decompress and, get your mind off of things. And then we have the Switch and I bought Luigi's Mansion 3. A little bit more expensive than I would like a video game to be. It's okay. And I'm doing really well. And then Kyle, my boyfriend, will come home and he'll see me playing video games and he'll be like, all right, cool.
That's funny. I love it.
Having that, something that very separate from school that you do to decompress, I think is really important. I don't want to make this a lesson, but it's a lesson. It is.
That's actually my lesson for Friday is, well, preview. I'm asking my students tomorrow to play a game.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what. They can play a guessing game at work with their friends, like 20 questions or whatever. Just play a game. Play a game. What did you play? Why did you play it? If you want to take a picture and include that too, cool. That's kind of my Friday fun day assignment.
Yeah, like are you playing with your siblings? Are you isolating yourself even more? Are you playing solitaire, puzzles, video games? Are you, trying to figure out different playlists that you listen to? Even if you're just laying on your bed watching different TikToks, let me know. Like it's funny and it's fun to know how other people are de-stressing during this time because that's really important.
Oh, for sure. I'm actually looking at my Netflix queue because I've been watching a lot of Netflix and I think we should give some recommendations for anything we've been watching. I actually had a kid ask me to like what I've been watching and I wrote him up. It probably took me an hour, which is embarrassing. But this kid wrote me an email and this is what I mean by I asked my students on last Friday to post their work from home where they were, I think I already talked about this. So they posted all this stuff, they responded to a reflection. And then I had some kids talking about how they don't limit distractions. And I realized, do I limit distractions when my students distract me with questions like, what are you watching on Netflix or something? I am going to go to my Netflix queue. I'm going to write you an extensive list. I'm going to research it. And it's going to be the honest to God truth coming from me. So I wrote up this list of recommendations for movies, and I tried to make sure that they weren't too inappropriate for school. Yeah. But like I recommended Rosemary's Baby because it's a good movie though. But it's long, but it's like Mia Farrow. But it's like the horror in it is not bad. It's so.
No spoilies, but there's a part at the end that
I
I
know.
watched when I was in college, and it made me freak out.
I feel like it's so short though, it doesn't matter. Like you could it's like
Yeah, fast forward through it.
you could just I kind of forget. I honestly need to rewatch it, I guess. But I loved it though. It's such a good movie, and I love Mia Farrow's hair, and she just
Rewatch it and Zoom at the same time, and just have like a correspondence.
But also, can we just take a second to talk about how Mia Farrow? Can we just have this moment real quick? So Mia Farrow marries Frank Sinatra, right? And she's like what, 20 something? He's like way older. Oh, Hollywood. And then okay, years later, marries Woody Allen. And then you know where that goes. But I know, just a little trivia. But and also her son is Ronan Farrow. Ronan Farrow, who is the one who broke the story on Harvey Weinstein. Cool. Wrote Catch and Kill. Check it out, journalism peeps. Anyway, I'm nerding out. I just like the Farrows.
And she revolutionized that haircut, that pixie style.
Love it. And I mean, did Audrey Hepburn do that though, or was it Mia Farrow? Or both?
I think it's still referred to as the Mia Farrow haircut.
That's true. But her haircut was also very specific with the bangs the way they were too. I don't think.
Tinkerbell.
Well, and you guys should Google image search Mia Farrow's hair. Apparently, is there anything else we wanted to mention before we wrap this up here? Final thoughts?
Quickly recommend to a lot of my students Blacklist on Netflix. There's 6 seasons. I'm looking at it right now just to verify. Yes, it's TV 14. Good. James Spader. If you've never seen, is it Pretty in Pink? Pretty in Pink.
Yes, I think so. No, it is. It definitely is.
Movies a lot when I feel emotional, especially during this time. I watched a lot of John Hughes movies, and James Spader is the wonderful star in The Blacklist, and it just helped me get through a lot. It's a really fun show that I think a lot of kids in high school don't necessarily know, but it's on Netflix. Watch it.
Some shows I really love right now, or in general on Netflix, are Mad Men. I think Mad Men is still on Netflix. Let me just double check.
It is.
Is it? It is. I love Mad Men, but maybe check with your parents before you watch it because there are some adult themes there. I do love watching Nailed It. The Office is always a good, I'm sorry.
New Girl. Gilmore Girls.
Yes, Gilmore Girls is amazing.
Parks and Rec.
Especially Parks and Rec is great. I've had so many people tell me I'm like Leslie Knope, but I don't feel like I have that much pep, especially in the morning. Tiger King is the latest, which I just finished, and it's weird and it's funky and it's not what I expected at all, but it's pretty entertaining. It's 7 episodes. Let's see, anything else that's really good out there right now? I don't really know. I think that I love so many of these shows on here. The Great British Baking Show. Mm-hmm. I just watched Tom Segura's latest stand-up comedy series, but that's kind of also
I love Tom Segura.
Also, for my students watching or reading Catcher in the Rye, if you decided to watch the Robert De Niro movie Taxi Driver, you would kind of see a little bit of what maybe Holden is experiencing himself in the Catcher in the Rye.
But check with your parents because if they're rated R.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Make sure that you always check with your parents before you watch anything anyway, so you do not get in trouble. That is not what we want to have happen to you.
Except on Netflix, there's also Jimmy Neutron and Spy Kids. Required reading, kids.
Fun.
Jimmy Neutron, Spy Kids. Report back to me on Monday. It's going to be an assignment. I'm just kidding. But
on Amazon Prime, there's a Making the Cut, which, if anybody doesn't know, it's a lot like Project Runway if you're a fan. I am literally, that's one of my favorite shows of all time. Project Runway. I've seen every episode maybe twice. And I've even purchased full seasons of that show, which is embarrassing because do you remember when people used to buy the box set DVDs of, like, I had Gilmore Girls season 1. Do you have some? Oh, yes. This is it. This is what's real. I mean, is this real life?
How I Met Your Mother,
Nice.
right? Necessary. Starting our Supernatural collection.
Oh, excellent.
Look at them. Wonderful.
Ooh.
And then to throw it back, Thundercats.
Oh my God, I used to watch that after school. That is a huge throwback. And it is Thursday. How appropriate. Post your TBTs in the comments below. I think that might be it for now. So for now, guys, take it easy, stay safe, and get schooled.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.